From ancient times, humans have always feared supernatural creatures. They are called yokai, and the commander who leads all the yokai. Everyone calls him Rikuo Nura. Although he looks very cool, he is just an ordinary student named Rikuo. While the yokai want Rikuo to command them, Rikuo only wants to live a normal life. So, he instructed them not to come near his school. But, the demons still want to protect Rikuo. Because he is the third-generation commander of the clan. From ancient times, yokai have always been feared by humans. However, they are currently in a difficult period. As Rikuo is running to school, Tengu keeps reminding him of his responsibility to inherit the clan, which annoys him greatly, because Rikuo just wants to live a normal life. At this moment, Rikuo is chatting with his friends. It turns out they want to explore an old house, because they heard rumors that the house is filled with yokai. While Kana doesn't believe yokai exist, they keep arguing about whether yokai are real or not. But, only Rikuo understood this matter the best. Suddenly, they invited Rikuo to join them. So, he needed to tell the yokai not to come to the old house today. In the evening, as Rikuo was preparing to leave with his friends, Rikuo's grandfather told him to think about inheriting the family. But, Rikuo still didn't want to. So, he left immediately. At this moment, Rikuo's group had arrived at the old house, making everyone feel uneasy. However, Rikuo remained calm, because he had instructed the yokai not to come here tonight. Suddenly, Rikuo saw a demon. He realized it wasn't a yokai from the Nura clan, which made Rikuo anxious. So, he tried to stop the yokai, to prevent his friends from seeing them. At this time, Rikuo's friends were annoyed, because they still hadn't found any yokai here. Suddenly, when they entered a room, they were chased by a praying mantis demon, which terrified them. Unexpectedly, Kana fell and fainted. Rikuo realized his human form couldn't protect Kana. So, he intended to transform into his night form. Suddenly, his subordinates appeared, because they wouldn't let anyone harm their commander. Meanwhile, Rikuo's grandfather gathered the senior members of the clan. They felt that Rikuo was too inexperienced, because he had only awakened his yokai blood once, 4 years ago. So, they believed he could not become the next commander of 10,000 yokai. But, Yuki told them to wait until Rikuo awakened his fear. Meanwhile, Yuki and Aotebo defeated the praying mantis demon. It turned out they had always been protecting Rikuo. They had even secretly transformed into student forms, to follow Rikuo to school. Surprising him, they hoped Rikuo would become the commander of the yokai. But, Rikuo only wanted to live a human life. Suddenly, Kana woke up. She was still terrified. But, Rikuo told her there were no yokai here. After that, he led Kana to his home, surprising her, because Rikuo's house had many servants, who were actually yokai in disguise. The next morning, a very powerful person was heading to the Nura clan. He easily killed yokai using feathers. When he arrived at Rikuo's house, it made Yuki very happy. It turned out his name was Zen. At this moment, Zen met Rikuo's grandfather and Yuki. When Zen learned that Rikuo still didn't want to inherit the position of commander, this surprised Zen. When Rikuo returned from school, he saw the yokai eating human-made cakes. So, Rikuo thought his grandfather had stolen the cakes. But, they explained that Zen had given them the cakes. When Rikuo met Zen, it made him very happy. It turned out they were childhood friends. When Yuki brought tea, she accidentally spilled it on Rikuo. So, she immediately froze him. This angered Zen, because Yuki dared to disrespect the third commander. At this moment, when Zen learned that Rikuo didn't want to become commander, it made him furious. He felt Rikuo had become weak and cowardly, and he had struggled to survive just to wait for Rikuo. This worried everyone. Suddenly, Zen started coughing, but he didn't want Rikuo to come near him. After that, Zen left. It turned out that Zen was a poisonous bird yokai, and he was also a master of using poison. However, Zen's species had a short lifespan, so his body was gradually weakening. At this moment, Rikuo was avoiding his grandfather, because his grandfather had summoned Zen here. Tengu showed Rikuo the map of the night parade of 100 demons. It turned out that beneath the Nura clan, there were many smaller clans. The Nura clan was founded to protect the weak. Meanwhile, Zen still didn't understand why Rikuo refused to become commander. Suddenly, he was attacked. At this moment, Rikuo was chasing after Zen. It turned out the snake demon had betrayed Zen. Zen didn't know who had ordered him to do so. As Rikuo caught up with Zen, he saw the demon blaming Zen for always prioritizing the Nura clan, while Zen himself had no ambition. When the snake demon attacked Zen, Tengu immediately intercepted the blow to protect him. Zen noticed Rikuo was also there, which made him worried, because he didn't have the strength to protect Rikuo. So, he tried to chase Rikuo away. Suddenly, the snake demon attacked again. But, Rikuo transformed into his night form, and immediately killed the snake demon. This surprised Zen, because this form of Rikuo was incredibly powerful. Even though Rikuo only carried 1/4 yokai blood, but he is much stronger than Zen. Zen feels that Rikuo deserves to become the third commander. At this moment, Zen proposed a sake sharing ceremony with Rikuo, because he wants to dedicate the rest of his life to serving Rikuo. So, Rikuo agreed, and he promised to protect Zen. After Zen left, Rikuo said to Tengu, "I will become the third commander," which surprised Tengu. But, he felt regretful, because this form of Rikuo would disappear in the morning. The next morning, Rikuo went to school. He couldn't remember what happened last night. Meanwhile, his friends believed they had encountered a yokai. Fortunately, Yuki came to explain. So, Kiyotsugu immediately believed he had been mistaken, and Yuki handed Beto to Rikuo, which made him anxious, because he feared everyone would discover his secret. He instructed Yuki not to call him young master anymore. Meanwhile, Kana was full of questions about Rikuo. At this moment, Rikuo's class welcomed a new transfer student named Yura, surprising everyone, because she was very beautiful. At this moment, Kiyotsugu's group was playing a trivia game about yokai. Unexpectedly, Yura knew a lot about the different kinds of demons, especially the dangerous ones, which surprised them. Meanwhile, Rikuo was worried, because he thought Yura was a yokai fanatic. Suddenly, Kiyotsugu decided to form a yokai hunting group, and they chose Rikuo's house as the location for the group's founding ceremony. This shocked Rikuo. It turned out that Kiyotsugu had heard rumors that there were demons around Rikuo's house, which made Rikuo helpless. At this moment, Rikuo was very worried, because he feared his secret would be exposed, especially to Yura, since she knew so much about yokai. When Rikuo returned, he saw the yokai throwing a party, which surprised him. It turned out that Tengu had told them about Rikuo's yokai form, which made everyone excited. But, Rikuo said that his friends were coming. So, they had to hide immediately. After that, they had to clean up. Suddenly, Kiyotsugu's group arrived, so, Rikuo's mother went out to greet them. But, Yura immediately became suspicious, because the design of his house was very ancient. This was a place where yokai often liked to dwell. Meanwhile, Rikuo was worried. Kubanashi and Kurotabo found Yura very suspicious. Suddenly, Yura looked toward them, but luckily, they managed to hide in time. At this moment, Kehoro brought tea to Rikuo's group, which made him nervous. So, he quickly pulled her outside, surprising them, because the maid at Rikuo's house was very beautiful, which made Yura even more suspicious. So, Rikuo immediately went to the kitchen to scold Kehoro. When he returned, Rikuo saw that they had already left. It turned out that Yura had led them around the house. So, the yokai had to hide. At this moment, Rikuo also arrived, but he couldn't stop Yura. She continued searching throughout the house, because she felt there were yokai here. After that, they entered a room filled with many Buddha statues. It turned out the yokai were hiding inside the statues. When Yura was about to check the Buddha statues, fortunately, Rikuo's grandfather appeared. But, Rikuo was very worried, because he is the supreme commander of the yokai. Unexpectedly, he was very polite, so, Rikuo's friends didn't recognize him. At this moment, Yura was still suspicious, because high-level yokai know how to hide their demonic aura. Suddenly, they saw a mouse, and Yura immediately chased after it. It turned out she recognized that the mouse was a yokai. So, Yura quickly exterminated it, which surprised Rikuo. It turned out that Yura was an exorcist, and her mission was to exterminate yokai. This made Kiyotsugu excited. Yura said that she was from the Kikine family, who specialize in hunting yokai in Tokyo. If she could exterminate the commander of the yokai here, she would become the leader of the Kikine family. This made Rikuo even more worried. In the end, they left. Yuki and Aotebo immediately apologized to Rikuo about the mouse, because they had never seen it. So, they thought someone had brought the mouse into the house. While Kana and Yura were returning home, suddenly, they were surrounded, and Yura realized they were yokai. So, they revealed their true faces. When they were about to capture Kana and Yura, Yura summoned a wolf to attack them. At this moment, they realized Yura was very strong. And Yura also realized that the rat demon's name was Kyuso. While Kyuso didn't think the third commander would be friends with an exorcist, suddenly, he used Kana to threaten Yura, which made Kana frightened. So, Yura had to call back her wolf. Suddenly, he slapped Yura in the face, causing her to faint. Meanwhile, Kuretabo saw Kubanashi was worried, and they realized he was concerned about Ryota. It turned out that Ryota was the leader of the cat yokai clan, and they had been hunted by the rat yokai. At this moment, Rikuo encountered another rat yokai, who informed him that Yura and Kana had been kidnapped, making Rikuo anxious. When Rikuo was about to ask for help, it told him he had to go there alone. So, Rikuo followed it. At this point, he arrived at the rat yokai's base, and unexpectedly, Nato Kozo had secretly followed him. Suddenly, he was attacked, and Rikuo was captured by Kyuso. He began to tease Rikuo, because he was too weak. But, Rikuo only wanted him to release Yura and Kana. Kyuso told Rikuo to give up the position of the third commander, and he pressured him to spread the news across the country, or he would kill Yura and Kana. At this moment, Rikuo was returning, and suddenly, he saw Ryota. So, he decided to help him. Suddenly, the rat yokai continued chasing them. So, Rikuo took Ryota and hid. After that, he brought Ryota back to his house. Meanwhile, Kyuso had no intention of keeping his promise, and he wanted to play with Yura and Kana. At this moment, Rikuo wrote a notice, stating that he would give up inheriting the position of the third commander. Suddenly, Rikuo's grandfather arrived, and he already knew everything. So, he told Rikuo to think carefully. At this moment, Ryota felt guilty toward Rikuo, because he had lost their territory to the rat yokai. So, he wanted to continue fighting them. Rikuo's subordinates also rushed over, and they wanted to fight as well. Suddenly, Rikuo's yokai blood awakened, which surprised everyone, and he decided to hunt the rat yokai. When Kyuso was about to eat Yura and Kana, suddenly, Rikuo and his subordinates arrived. Kyuso realized this was the night parade of 100 demons, which surprised him. Aotebo rushed to rescue Yura and Kana. So, they ran away. This made Kyuso angry. After that, they began to fight. It turned out Rikuo's subordinates were very strong, and they easily defeated the rat yokai. Meanwhile, Kyuso was facing Ryota. Although he was injured, Ryota still asked Rikuo for permission to fight. Unexpectedly, Kyuso transformed into a giant rat, and he defeated Ryota. Suddenly, Rikuo blew out a flame from his wine cup, and it burned Kyuso. In the end, Rikuo won. At this moment, Yura and Kana were still confused, as they didn't know who had saved them. The next morning, Yura apologized to Kana, because she had put Kana in danger. Meanwhile, Kana no longer found yokai scary, because she had fallen for Rikuo's night form. At this point, Kiyotsugu had gathered the yokai hunting team, but he noticed Rikuo was missing. It turned out Rikuo was sick. So, Kehoro and Kubanashi had to take care of him. Suddenly, Zen came to visit Rikuo. He realized Rikuo still hadn't recovered from the battle yesterday, but he still wanted Rikuo to become the commander. Suddenly, Yuki returned, and she was very worried about Rikuo. So, she took over looking after him. Suddenly, Kana's group also came to visit Rikuo, making Rikuo nervous. He feared they would discover the yokai here. Accidentally, Kana discovered Yuki had come before her, which made her jealous, because Yuki was very close to Rikuo. At this moment, Kiyotsugu announced that this weekend they would go on a yokai hunting excursion, which made Rikuo feel helpless. Outside, Nayudo had overheard everything. Meanwhile, Rikuo's grandfather told Tengu to investigate the high-ranking members of the family, because he suspected there was a traitor. At this moment, Kana was still jealous of Yuki. Suddenly, Rikuo called her. asking what things a girl would typically bring on a trip tomorrow. Accidentally, she overheard Yuki's voice. So, Rikuo hung up, making Kana suspicious. The next morning, they started their journey, when they learned their lodge was on top of a mountain, which made them feel discouraged. Meanwhile, Yuki was excited, because she was going with Rikuo. After that, they began climbing the mountain, which made them exhausted. Suddenly, Rikuo spotted a shrine. Yuki thought there might be some yokai there. Yura also felt a bad omen. Suddenly, Professor Ada Shibara arrived, and he was their guide. He led Rikuo's group to the lodge, which made everyone nervous, because the place seemed strange. He said that yokai lived on the mountaintop, which excited Kyotsugu. At that moment, Ada Shibara told them that since ancient times, the yokai on this mountain had attacked lost travelers, which frightened everyone. Rikuo and Yuki then realized that the yokai on this mountain was Gyuki. Meanwhile, Gyuki was waiting for them to arrive. It turned out Nayudo recognized that Gyuki was the one manipulating the rat yokai, and he was still watching Rikuo's group. At this moment, Rikuo's group was very scared, so they wanted to go home immediately. But Kyotsugu was very amused. He said that they no longer had a bus to go back, so they had to stay at Professor Ada Shibara's inn. He told them that his inn was very safe. They even had Yura, an exorcist, so they didn't need to worry. This reassured everyone. It turned out that Professor Ada Shibara had been controlled by a yokai. Their goal was to kill Rikuo. At this point, Rikuo's group arrived at the inn. He felt that everything there was very strange. When the girls heard there was a hot spring here, they became excited. But Yuki ran away, because she was a snow woman. Meanwhile, Shima wanted to peek at the women's bath. But Kyotsugu wanted to hunt yokai. So, Rikuo stopped them, because it was very dangerous here. However, Kyotsugu still wanted to go. Unexpectedly, Yuki came and joined them. So, Rikuo had to follow them. While Kana was worried, because she thought Rikuo and Yuki were together. Kana decided to go find them. Unexpectedly, the yokai surrounded the bathhouse, and Mezu planned to capture them to threaten Rikuo. Meanwhile, Rikuo's group was still being watched by Gozu. It turned out that Gyuki had previously ordered them to assassinate Rikuo. It turned out he was planning to betray the Nura clan. At this moment, Yura heard screams from the bathhouse. So, she ran there, when the two girls were in danger. Fortunately, Yura arrived in time to save them. Meanwhile, Rikuo's group was still exploring around. But, Yuki was being overly cautious, because she needed to protect Rikuo. So, Rikuo told her she didn't need to do that. Suddenly, Gozu started to take action. He manipulated Kyotsugu and Shima to run off. So, Rikuo chased after them. Suddenly, Yuki was attacked by Gozu. While Yura was fighting with Mezu, Rikuo realized he had been distracted, and Yuki was in danger. At this moment, Yuki managed to avoid Gozu's attack. She realized he was a subordinate of Gyuki. So, she warned him to stop, which made him angry and attack Yuki. At this moment, Yuki realized their goal was Rikuo, when she was in danger. Fortunately, Rikuo arrived in time to stop him. He said, "If you harm my servant, I will kill you." This amused Gozu. At this moment, Rikuo felt his body heating up. While Yuki couldn't let the young master protect her, Rikuo told her not to worry. So, he stepped up to fight Gozu. Meanwhile, Yura was trying to protect the two girls. Suddenly, someone attacked Mezu. It turned out they were subordinates of Tengu sent here to protect Rikuo. So, they captured Mezu, leaving Yura's group confused about what was happening. While Rikuo was fighting Gozu, Yuki didn't understand why Rikuo was in his daytime form. But, he was still able to fight Gozu. At this moment, Gozu realized Rikuo was very strong, even though he hadn't awakened his yokai bloodline yet. Suddenly, Gozu cast a spell, paralyzing Rikuo's body. Then, he grew insect-like legs from his back, making Yuki worry and rush over. But, she was knocked unconscious by him, and he continued to attack Rikuo. When he was about to kill him, unexpectedly, his insect-like legs were severed, and he was defeated. It turned out that Rikuo had awakened his nighttime form. Meanwhile, the yokai at home were having a party. But, they still felt regret, because they couldn't accompany Rikuo. While Zen was worried, because he knew Rikuo was in Gyuki's territory. It turned out that Rikuo's grandfather had also noticed Gyuki's problem. But he still allowed Rikuo to handle it, because he would become the future commander. At this moment, Yura's group was safe. But they didn't know where Rikuo and Kana had gone. It turned out that Kana was still looking for Rikuo and Yuki, making her worried, because the flashlight was broken. Suddenly, Rikuo appeared carrying Yuki, which scared Kana, because she didn't recognize this form of Rikuo. But she realized he was the one who had saved her earlier, causing Kana to fall. But Rikuo grabbed her hand. Then he handed Yuki over to Kana. However, Kana didn't understand why he knew her name. He said, "I've known for a long time." After that, Rikuo left. It turned out that he was heading to Gyuki's place. At this moment, Rikuo met Gyuki. He recognized this as Rikuo's awakened form. Rikuo began asking Gyuki why he wanted to kill him. Unexpectedly, Gyuki immediately pressed a sword to Rikuo's neck. But Rikuo moved very quickly, and he said, "I will become the third commander." While they continued to fight, Gyuki told him he had to answer his questions. Suddenly, he conjured 2 illusions of those Rikuo had killed. But Rikuo made them disappear. He asked Gyuki, "What are you going to do after you kill me?" It turned out that Gyuki wanted to kill Rikuo and then end his own life. So, Rikuo attacked him. At this moment, Gyuki remembered a century ago. This country was always plagued by war and poverty, while his lord and wife desperately wanted to have a child. But they had no children. One night, a pink orb entered her mouth. And unexpectedly, after some time, the lord's wife gave birth to Umawaka. And he was also Gyuki. This made the couple very happy. When Umawaka turned 7, his father died in a coup, causing Umawaka and his mother to flee. From then on, Umawaka practiced swordsmanship on the mountain. One day, Umawaka heard that his mother was seriously ill. So, he descended the mountain to find her. He was led up Mount Nijirim by his mother's 2 maidservants. Suddenly, a demon attacked him. At this moment, he realized he had been deceived. When Umawaka discovered that this demon had eaten his mother, he became enraged, and he entered the demon's mouth. Unexpectedly, the demon fell into a ravine and died. At this moment, Umawaka was in despair because he had lost everything. So, he decided to become a demon and take revenge on humans. From then on, Umawaka established his own clan, and humans began calling him Gyuki. Sometime later, a group of the night parade of 100 demons arrived at Yuki's territory. And their supreme commander was Nurarihyun, who was Rikuo's grandfather. They fought against each other continuously. In the end, Gyuki was defeated, but Nurarihyun felt that he was very strong. So, Nurarihyun suggested Gyuki become his subordinate, and he gave Gyuki 2 days to decide. In the end, Gyuki went to find Nurarihyun. Because he respected Nurarihyun's strength, he decided to join the Nura clan. At this moment, Rikuo was still fighting Gyuki. But Rikuo was injured. Gyuki told him, if Rikuo continues to reject his yokai blood, and he continues to live as a human, he would not accept Rikuo becoming the commander. So, Gyuki continued to attack, but Rikuo said, "I will become the third commander." Unexpectedly, Rikuo regained the advantage, and he struck Gyuki, surprising him. In the end, Gyuki was defeated. At this moment, Gyuki warned Rikuo. The Nura clan had been infiltrated both from the inside and outside. If this continues, their clan would be destroyed. And he didn't want anyone to ruin this beloved clan, even if that person was Rikuo. Suddenly, Tengu's subordinates arrived. As they were about to capture Gyuki, Rikuo immediately stopped them. At this moment, Gyuki still avoided Rikuo, because he didn't acknowledge his yokai blood. But he respected Rikuo's strength, so he decided to punish himself. However, Rikuo stopped him. This confused Gyuki. It turned out that Rikuo saw his betrayal as a trivial matter, and he told Gyuki, "If you have any questions, ask the human part of me." This made Gyuki recall Nurarihyun's words. "From now on, I will be your parent." So, Gyuki began to view the Nura clan as his family. The next morning, Gyuki woke up. He saw Rikuo taking care of him. Gyuki asked Rikuo if he remembered anything about last night. Unexpectedly, Rikuo remembered everything, and he began to accept that he was a yokai, because he wanted to protect everyone. Rikuo also considered Yuki his family, which surprised him. At this moment, Yuki told Rikuo that Kana's group was still safe. Meanwhile, Saori and Natsumi were blaming Kiyotsugu for leading them to that mountain, while Yura felt that Rikuo was very suspicious, because that night, he had disappeared. Meanwhile, Kana was still thinking about Rikuo's night form. At this moment, Rikuo met his grandfather. He wanted to expel Yuki. So, he told Rikuo to make a judgment about Yuki in the upcoming meeting. The next morning, everyone was preparing for the meeting. Suddenly, Yuki met Mezu and Gozu, which made her uncomfortable, because they would be staying here for a while. At this moment, all the senior members of the Nura clan had gathered, causing everyone to worry, because today's meeting would decide whether Rikuo would become the commander. At this moment, Rikuo's grandfather declared Rikuo would become the third commander. But Ryoudo still didn't trust Rikuo, and he wanted to deal with Yuki first. Suddenly, Rikuo also declared, I will become the commander of the Nura clan, and he said that Yuki had indeed tried to assassinate him. But Rikuo said he would take all the blame for Yuki. So, Ryoudo opposed it, because they needed to punish the traitor. But Rikuo said Yuki had not betrayed them, because he had protected the Western Territory very well. This surprised everyone. After that, Nurarihyun decided, when Rikuo turns 13, he will officially become the third commander. At this moment, Kana had a strange dream, because when she was 6 years old, she had experienced something similar. And today was also her birthday. Kana had arrived at school, while Yura was teaching Saori and Natsumi to become exorcists. But Kana was still thinking about her dream. Suddenly, Kiyotsugu arrived. He gave Kana a gift, because it was her birthday, which made Kana very happy. Unexpectedly, it was a doll in the shape of a yokai. But Kana still thanked him. Meanwhile, Rikuo had told Yuki and Aotebo to go home first, because he needed to team up with everyone. As Kana was heading home, she remembered from her dream that someone would come to pick her up on her birthday, which made her worried. At this moment, Kiyotsugu's group was investigating a yokai named Ungaikyo. He was a mirror demon, and he would kill his target on their 13th birthday. At this moment, Rikuo also arrived, but he couldn't find Kana anywhere, while Kana had encountered Ungaikyo, which made her frightened and run away. But the mirror demon continued to chase her. At this point, Kana had been chased by Ungaikyo to the school. Suddenly, she remembered, when she was 6 years old, she had found a purple mirror, and Ungaikyo had arranged to meet her on her 13th birthday. While Rikuo was puzzled, he didn't know which yokai family Ungaikyo belonged to. At that moment, Ungaikyo appeared in Kana's mirror. So, she immediately threw it on the ground, shattering it. Suddenly, the doll that Kiyotsugu had given her started ringing. It turned out to be a phone. Thus, she notified everyone that she was being attacked by a yokai. This shocked them. So, Rikuo and Kiyotsugu immediately ran to find Kana. It turned out that Kana had been trapped inside the mirror world. Thus, no one could see her. Fortunately, Rikuo saw Kana, which surprised the mirror demon. So, he shattered the mirror and captured Kana, while she was in danger. Luckily, Rikuo arrived to save her. This made the mirror demon furious. He then split into multiple forms. But Rikuo easily defeated him. At this point, Kana was safe. So, she informed everyone that she had mistaken it. When Rikuo was about to leave, she asked, "Who are you?" Because every time he appeared, Rikuo would disappear. So, Kana decided to follow Rikuo to learn more about him. At that moment, Rikuo led Kana to a yokai restaurant. It turned out Ryoudo was managing this restaurant, while Kana saw yokai everywhere. They thought Kana was the young master's girlfriend. So, they asked her what kind of yokai she was. Rikuo said, "If they find out you're human, they'll eat you." This made Kana worry, but she felt that the yokai there were very friendly. After they finished eating, Kana was very tired. So, Rikuo carried her back home. The next morning, Rikuo felt embarrassed, because the night before, he had eaten with Kana until nearly dawn. Suddenly, he met Kana, and she immediately pulled Rikuo along, making Rikuo worry, because he thought Kana had discovered his secret. Fortunately, she only thought that Rikuo and the man from the previous night were friends. This made Yuki shocked. she realized that Kana had fallen for the young master. At that moment, there were enemies targeting the Nura family. They thought the Nura family had become too weak. Meanwhile, Rikuo's grandfather realized there was an intrusion into their territory. So, Haihai suggested that he should handle the matter. Because Rikuo's declaration to become the third commander made him want to rejuvenate himself through battle. Rikuo's grandfather agreed. Haihai promised that after the matter was settled, he would bring cakes and tea back for Nurarihyun. Unexpectedly, Haihai was defeated. This left the investigation team stunned. Because Haihai was a high-ranking yokai in the family. So, they returned to report to the Supreme Commander. At that moment, Rikuo also heard the news about Haihai, which made him very sad. Afterward, he went to meet with Tengu. It turned out that Tengu wanted to increase the number of people protecting Rikuo to 6, because Rikuo was the sole heir to the position of commander. The next morning, Rikuo was surrounded by many yokai protecting him. At that moment, the high-ranking members of the family were also being protected. Meanwhile, Rikuo's grandfather was annoyed, because Tengu was overprotective of him. So, he decided to sneak away. At that moment, Rikuo's grandfather was still out for a walk. Thus, Nato Kozo continued to follow him. When he was about to stand in line to buy some cake, he suddenly saw Yura. It turned out they were both fighting to buy discounted cakes. Unexpectedly, Yura couldn't buy any cake. So, Nurarihyun gave her some cakes. She realized he was Rikuo's grandfather. After that, they began to talk to each other. She explained that she had to come to the city alone, because her mission was to eliminate Nurarihyun. This shocked him. However, Yura didn't understand why those yokai had saved her. She didn't know if all yokai were evil. This made Rikuo's grandfather laugh. And he said that all yokai were evil. This made Yura feel somewhat relieved. Nato Kozo didn't understand why he was comforting an exorcist. Suddenly, they were attacked. So, Yura quickly protected him. At that moment, their attackers appeared. Yura recognized one of them. It was a yokai that controlled the wind named Muchi. So, he continued to attack them. Yura blocked his attack, but he was very strong. He created a tornado that surrounded both of them. So, Yura summoned a deer to take Rikuo's grandfather away. At that moment, she was surrounded by their attackers. So, they all attacked her together. When Nurarihyun tried to save Yura, to his surprise, Yura was enjoying herself. She then summoned 4 Shikigami, surprising both Nurarihyun and their attackers. She then began attacking them. Meanwhile, Rikuo saw Tengu in a hurry. He realized something was wrong. So, they decided to go and check. Suddenly, Mezu and Gozu arrived to tell them that Rikuo's grandfather had disappeared. This made Rikuo worry. However, in his daytime form, he was quite useless. So, he asked Mezu and Gozu to help him investigate. Although Rikuo knew his grandfather was very strong, he still felt anxious. Kana saw Rikuo and Yuki walking together, which made her jealous. Meanwhile, Yura had defeated Muchi's subordinates. Suddenly, he attacked her from behind. She realized she had been too careless. Unexpectedly, Yura was poisoned by his attack. So, she was knocked down by Muchi. Muchi realized there was no time to play with Yura. So, he immediately chased after Nurarihyun. This made Yura worried. Thus, she quickly ran to find him. At this moment, Nurarihyun realized that he was the one who killed Haihai. While Muchi was looking down on the Naru family, he attacked Nurarihyun, but Nurarihyun dodged his attacks. Muchi continued to create a large whirlwind to attack him. Suddenly, Nurarihyun drew his sword, causing Muchi's wind to reverse. Muchi didn't expect that he could no longer see Nurarihyun, even though he was still there. This terrified Muchi, because Nurarihyun's power far exceeded his own. Thus, he was defeated by Nurarihyun, even though Muchi was about to die. But, he still didn't reveal the person behind him. When Yura arrived, she saw that Rikuo's grandfather was safe, which surprised her. He explained that he had hidden when Muchi arrived. So, Yura didn't suspect anything. She realized that she needed to be stronger. And he said that Yura had saved him. This made her very happy. At this moment, Nurarihyun asked Nato Kozo to inform everyone that he would not be going home today, because he needed to take care of some matters. Meanwhile, Rikuo and Kana were walking home together. When Yuki found out that Kana was no longer afraid of yokai, She even found yokai very charming, which made Yuki jealous. She then asked Rikuo what had happened that night, and Yuki was sure that Kana had fallen in love with Rikuo. Suddenly, Kana and Yuki began competing for Rikuo, which left everyone helpless. By accident, Rikuo stumbled into another student. To Rikuo's surprise, the student knew his name, and said that he and Rikuo were similar. But Rikuo had been born with everything. The student said he would collect more fear than Rikuo. This left Rikuo confused, not knowing who he was. Suddenly, the student touched Kana, so Rikuo stopped him. He realized that Kana was very important to Rikuo. After that, they left, leaving everyone surprised, because there were 7 of them. They called themselves the 7 Phantom Travelers. They were yokai from the Shikoku region. At this moment, Tengu was still searching for the Supreme Commander, which made him very worried. Meanwhile, Rikuo was still thinking about the person who had spoken to him. At this moment, Tamazuki also heard the news that the Supreme Commander of the Nura clan had disappeared. So, he wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to destroy the Nura clan. This made his group very excited. But there were still many strong members in the Nura clan. So, they needed to separate them first. That night, they began to take action. At this moment, Rikuo told everyone that they were yokai from the Shikoku region, and that they were trying to invade their territory. This made the smaller yokai in the clan worried. But Yuki encouraged them, because they still had Rikuo here. While Rikuo was thinking of ways to deal with them, suddenly, Yuki arrived to find him. He said this was a challenge for Rikuo. The next morning, Rikuo told Yuki and Aotebo to act normal, because the enemy wanted to confuse them. That night, the Nura clan increased their surveillance. Suddenly, a yokai set fire to the park. Fortunately, Yura was also there, and she quickly put out the fire. So, the bird-like yokai attacked Yura. Fortunately, Tengu's subordinates arrived and attacked him, causing him to flee. At this moment, Kana called to inform Rikuo that Yura had been attacked, which made him very worried. While Rikuo didn't know what to do, he remembered his childhood, when Kana had been attacked by a yokai, and he had transformed into his knight form to defeat that yokai. At this moment, Rikuo told Yuki that he would no longer hesitate. Meanwhile, Tamazuki was planning to attack the Nura clan's mansion. At this moment, the high-ranking members of the Nura clan had gathered. Shoei was very angry, because his father, Haihai, had been killed. So, Shoei wanted to immediately take revenge for his father. This worried Yuki's group, because Nayudo was encouraging Shoei, which was shaking the position of the young master. Finally, Rikuo arrived. He told everyone not to act on their own, especially Shoei. This made Shoei angry. But Rikuo comforted Shoei, because he also wanted to avenge Haihai. And he declared, before his grandfather returned, he would be the leader of the Nura clan, which surprised everyone. So, Shoei agreed to follow Rikuo's words. Suddenly, a Nagami infiltrated the mansion, and attacked a yokai there, causing everyone to worry. At this moment, he continued attacking everyone. So, Rikuo chased after him. As soon as he ran out of the gate, Rikuo saw the 7 phantom travelers were here. It turned out that they wanted to officially greet Rikuo. Tamazuki said that his father is the commander of the 808 Fox yokai in the Shikoku region, and Rikuo asked him what his purpose was. Tamazuki said that he wanted to collect more fear here, and that he would take over the Nura clan. Suddenly, Shoei jumped out, and he attacked Tamazuki to take revenge for his father. Yuki's group also rushed forward. But, to their surprise, they blocked Yuki's attack, even causing the mansion to catch fire. So, Tamazuki left. Luckily, Kappa quickly put out the fire. The next morning, Rikuo invited everyone to his house for a camping trip. It turned out that Rikuo wanted to protect them. While the yokai were repairing the gate together, Tengu didn't know where the Supreme Commander was. It turned out that he was heading to the Shikoku region, and he felt that the place had changed a lot. At this moment, Mezu and Gozu were following a member of the 7 phantom travelers. It turned out that earlier, Gozu had shot some threads onto him. Meanwhile, Rikuo's friends had arrived at his house. Then, Rikuo asked Yuki to protect Kana, which made her uncomfortable, because she didn't want to protect her rival. But, since it was Rikuo's order, she had to obey. At this moment, Mezu and Gozu attacked this yokai, and they intended to capture him. Meanwhile, Tamazuki's subordinates were very excited, as they wanted to immediately slaughter the Nura clan. On Nudo's side, he was very angry, because he wasn't allowed to act freely. And if he did, Rikuo's plan would fail. But Daruma stopped him, because their mission was to fully support the young master. At this moment, Mezu and Gozu had captured the yokai. But he was too weak, and they didn't know if he was really one of the 7 phantom travelers. Suddenly, it started raining, which allowed him to unleash his power. It turned out that he was Ganji Kozo, a yokai who controls water, which made things difficult for Mezu and Gozu. Meanwhile, Rikuo had received the notification about Ganji Kozo. So, he and Kappa would go deal with him. At this moment, Kappa encountered Ganji Kozo. Rikuo discovered that he was trying to destroy the water treatment plant, and he ordered Kappa to fight freely. So, Ganji Kozo attacked Kappa, but Kappa blocked his attack, and Kappa pushed Ganji Kozo back. Suddenly, the bird-like yokai attempted to ambush Rikuo, but he was knocked down by Rikuo. So, he changed direction to save Ganji Kozo and fled. It turned out that they were preparing for an official battle. Meanwhile, the Nura clan members were on high alert, but some important clan members were still killed. So, Ryoudo scolded Rikuo, and they realized there was a traitor in the clan. But Rikuo told everyone to stay calm, and he asked Tengu to continue the investigation. After the meeting ended, Rikuo asked Yuki to continue protecting his friends. Meanwhile, they were very bored, so Yuki went to invite them to exercise with her. On Yura's side, she was investigating the yokai, when she suddenly spotted a suspicious woman. So, she attacked Yura. To her surprise, Yura blocked the attack. The woman realized that Yura was an exorcist. So, she ran away. As Yura chased her using her ability to sense demonic aura, she accidentally ran to Rikuo's house, and saw everyone exercising. At this moment, Yura entered the house and had some snacks. She told Rikuo about what had happened. So, he immediately sent people to investigate. Meanwhile, Ona returned to inform Tamazuki about Yura. So, he ordered Ona to deal with her. That evening, Yura said goodbye to everyone and was about to head home. So, Rikuo sent Kehoro to protect her. At this moment, Tengu discovered that Ona was disguised as a waitress in their restaurant. To gather information, suddenly, Rikuo switched to his night form, and he was determined to catch her. Meanwhile, Ona was gathering information in the restaurant. Suddenly, she realized she had been exposed. So, she ran away. Luckily, Ona managed to escape. She realized that Yura had been the one who made her get exposed, while everyone was blaming Ryoudo for being the one who leaked information to Ona. Ona had found Yura, so Yura ran to a secluded place. When Ona caught up with Yura, she used her hair to attack Yura, but Yura's arm was injured, so she was hit by Ona's attack, and Yura was captured by her. Fortunately, Kehoro arrived just in time to rescue Yura. Kehoro scolded her, calling her an ugly old woman, which made Ona furious and she attacked Kehoro. To her surprise, Kehoro also controlled hair to attack her. Suddenly, Ona felt fear. As Rikuo had arrived, he easily sliced through Ona's hair. At this moment, Rikuo told Ona to convey a message to Tamazuki. He told her to tell him not to involve women in this battle. So, Ona ran away. When Yura woke up, she saw Rikuo. Rikuo realized that Yura was safe. So, he left. Meanwhile, Yura still wanted to know who he was. At this moment, Ona returned to report to Tamazuki, which made him intrigued by Rikuo's strength, while Rikuo was suspecting what the true purpose of their arrival was. Suddenly, Kiyotsugu discovered on his software that many shrines had been destroyed. This made Kiyotsugu excited, so he told everyone to go explore. Rikuo then told Aotabo's group to escort them. At this moment, they arrived at a shrine that had collapsed. Unexpectedly, Yura was also there. By chance, she saw Rikuo and Yuki whispering to each other. So, she thought Rikuo was flirting with both of them. This made her angry. Yura walked over and warned Rikuo, telling him that if he tried to shoot both rabbits, he wouldn't catch either. This confused everyone. While Nurarihyone had arrived in the Shikoku region, he met a giant yokai. But, Nurarihyone immediately defeated him, causing the yokai to flee. Suddenly, Another yokai attacked him. Nurari-hyun realized he was a tanuki. It turned out that he was the commander of the yokai in the Shikoku region. So, they started drinking and chatting together, making them both very happy. Meanwhile, Rikuo was thinking about Tamazuki's intentions. When Kehoro brought tea to him, Rikuo realized something. So, he told everyone to protect the shrines. It turned out that Rikuo had figured out their true goal to destroy the shrines, because the shrines were places where human worship and fear were collected, and they were transferring that worship from the Nuruk clan to the Shikoku region. At this moment, Aotabo's group saw Kiyotsugu. It turned out he had analyzed that this was the next shrine to be destroyed. Suddenly, Shima saw a yokai approaching Kiyotsugu, which scared him. So, Shima kicked a ball into the yokai's face, thus ensuring Kiyotsugu's safety. By chance, Rikuo also arrived and saw the yokai. So, he and Yuki chased after it. Suddenly, the yokai called its comrades to come. Luckily, Aotabo's group arrived just in time, and they fought against them. Meanwhile, the bird yokai was fighting with the 3 children of Tengu. He was very confident in his fire. Unexpectedly, his flames were pushed back and burning him. The giant yokai realized the situation was not good. So, he fled. At this point, the giant yokai returned to report to Tamazuki. But, Tamazuki wasn't going to let his plan be disrupted. While Rikuo continued to instruct everyone to strengthen the security of the shrines, they even had to focus on protecting the smaller shrines. At this moment, Kuretabo accidentally bumped into Natsumi, which made him worried. Luckily, she didn't realize that he was a yokai. Kuretabo noticed that she had dropped a piece of paper. Natsumi then arrived at Lord Senba's shrine. Meanwhile, Rikuo couldn't find Natsumi, which made him worried. So, he and Yuki went to search for her, while Natsumi was thanking Senba. Suddenly, the yokai grabbed her sleeve. It turned out he was Sotomogi, and he attacked, tearing Natsumi's sleeve. Luckily, Kuretabo arrived just in time to save her. At this moment, Rikuo also arrived. So, Sotomogi fled. Suddenly, they discovered that Natsumi was in critical condition. Rikuo immediately rushed her to the hospital for emergency treatment, making everyone very worried. But, Rikuo assured them that she would be fine. Then, he went to find Kuretabo. Kuretabo apologized to Rikuo for not saving Natsumi. Suddenly, Lord Senba appeared. He told them that Natsumi had been cursed. He also couldn't find a way to lift the curse. Rikuo realized that the only option left was to destroy Sotomogi. So, he immediately changed into his night form. Then, Rikuo ordered everyone to track down Sotomogi. They quickly found him. So, Rikuo ordered Kuretabo. When Sotomogi was about to harm a god in another temple, he was stopped by Kuretabo, and he defeated him. At this point, Rikuo asked him how to break the curse. But, he said that, even if he died, his curse would still claim the lives of humans. While Natsumi was still in critical condition. At this moment, Senba remembered, when Natsumi was a child, she often came here to pray. Even though he was a god forgotten by everyone, Natsumi still cared about his shrine. But now, Senba did not have enough power to save her. Suddenly, Kiyotsugu's group arrived. It turned out that they had folded many paper cranes to pray for Natsumi. So, Senba gained enough power, and he went to heal Natsumi, making Rikuo start to feel at ease. Meanwhile, Tamazuki realized that Sotomogi had died. But, he was still not worried. Inagami told him to order him to deal with them. The next morning, Natsumi had recovered. This made everyone very happy. At this moment, Nurari-hyun and Tanuki were still talking to each other. They felt that they were too old now. And Nurari-hyun told him that Hai had been assassinated by Tanuki's son's subordinates. It turns out that Tamazuki was his 8th child. And Tamazuki was the one who inherited the most of his powers. He was trying to use fear to command yokai. Tamazuki had established the 7 phantom travelers, and the most dangerous among them was Inagami. At this point, Inagami had infiltrated Rikuo's house. He saw Rikuo being close to humans, which made Inagami look down on him. While Rikuo was playing cards with everyone, suddenly, Kiyotsugu discovered some new news. The old house they had explored had been occupied by yokai. So, Kiyotsugu told everyone to go hunt yokai. But, Rikuo immediately stopped them, because he was afraid they would be in danger. Suddenly, Kehoro announced that he had a phone call. It turned out that Inagami had called Rikuo. He said that if Rikuo continued to hide in the house, he would come and deal with his friends. This made Rikuo worried. When Rikuo returned, everyone had disappeared. It turned out that they had gone to the old house. Rikuo immediately realized it was a trap. So, he quickly chased after everyone. Meanwhile, Kiyotsugu's group had gathered with Yura, and they were preparing to search the old house. But, Inagami had already ambushed them inside, which amused him greatly. At this point, they had entered the house, making Kiyotsugu and Shima very excited. But, they were being watched by Inagami. When Rikuo arrived, he met Yura's group. At that moment, Yuki's group also arrived, and they immediately defeated the yokai inside the old house. Rikuo told everyone that it was very dangerous here. So, he told them to leave first. When he was about to find Kiyotsugu and Shima, suddenly, he encountered Inagami. He didn't understand why Rikuo was close to humans, which made him think it was disgusting. While Yura's group was being surrounded by yokai, Yura held them off. When Inagami was about to attack Rikuo, suddenly, his subordinates arrived, and they captured Inagami. At this point, he looked down on Rikuo even more, because he always needed to be protected. Inagami released his power, allowing him to transform his head into a wolf. When he attacked Rikuo, Yuki pushed him out of the way. But, Inagami continued to attack him. Suddenly, he was restrained by Kubanashi, which made him furious. It turns out that before, Inagami was always looked down upon, until he met Tamazuki. When Tamazuki saw Inagami's power, he was very pleased, and he ordered Inagami to become his subordinate. At that moment, Inagami only believed that Tamazuki was the true commander, and he would become the ruler of humanity. But, Rikuo said that he had been deceived by Tamazuki, because humans and yokai were no different from one another. However, Inagami still didn't believe this, and he began to awaken his full power. Unexpectedly, he managed to break free from Kubanashi's restraints. So, Inagami transformed into a gigantic wolf, causing the house to begin collapsing. Inagami then attacked everyone, which made Rikuo worried. At this point, only Rikuo was left to face him, and Inagami captured Rikuo. When Inagami thought he had finished off Rikuo, he was surprised to find that his hand was bleeding. It turned out that Rikuo had switched to his night form, which amazed Inagami. Rikuo said that everything was over now. So, he continuously attacked him. Rikuo said that size does not equate to strength, which made Inagami flee. At this point, Yura's group had escaped outside. Suddenly, they saw Inagami and Rikuo. As Inagami continued to attack Rikuo, Rikuo avoided and stabbed him in the back. Then, Rikuo delivered the finishing blow. So, Inagami was defeated, but he still refused to accept his defeat. Suddenly, Tamazuki appeared. He pretended to care about Inagami. Rikuo saw that he was being too fake. Tamazuki said, "Next time, I'll take your fear in your life." And with that, Tamazuki left. At this point, many yokai from Shikoku were heading toward Tamazuki. The next morning, Yuki felt the demonic aura in the area becoming thicker, which made Rikuo worried. Meanwhile, Danuki told Nurarihyun that recently his son had acquired a legendary artifact. Since Tamazuki acquired that artifact, his personality had completely changed. At this point, Tamazuki had gathered all the yokai. It turns out that his artifact was this sword, which was called the Mao's hammer, exciting the yokai. Meanwhile, Rikuo and everyone else could feel the demonic aura growing thicker. Daruma realized that the yokai from Shikoku were preparing to attack. At this point, Rikuo was very worried, because he felt responsible for this family. While Tamazuki was extremely confident, he believed that this time, Rikuo wouldn't be strong enough to resist him. Unexpectedly, Shoei had found Tamazuki's base. It turns out he wanted to avenge his father. At this moment, Shoei was facing many yokai. Suddenly, he was attacked by a giant yokai, which injured him, and Shoei remembered his father. His father had said that he joined the Nura family because he really admired the Supreme Commander, and he also understood the heart of humans. But, Shoei didn't understand what his father meant. When Shoei thought he was about to die, suddenly, the three children of Tengu saved him. So, they left together. When Rikuo learned that Shoei had been injured, this made him very worried. At this point, Rikuo felt that it was his fault, because he was too weak. But Zen scolded him, telling Rikuo to fight, because they had all sworn loyalty to his grandfather and father. So, they would also remain loyal to Rikuo. However, they were not the night parade of 100 demons of his. Rikuo realized that he needed to create his own night parade of 100 demons. But Rikuo thought no one would want to be his subordinate, since he only had power at night. This made Zen angry, and he told him to try. Zen said that the night parade of 100 demons wasn't about day or night, because as long as it was Rikuo. At that moment, Rikuo remembered his grandfather, and since he was the grandson of Ryoubo-kun, he would fight. Suddenly, Yuki's group arrived. It turns out they wanted to drink the loyalty oath with Rikuo. So, Rikuo drank with each of them, which made them very happy. At this point, Rikuo encountered his yokai form. They decided one would handle the human part, and one would handle the demon part. Suddenly, Shoei woke up. He wanted to continue seeking revenge. But Rikuo said, this time, he would go with Shoei, because Shoei was also part of his family. So, Rikuo switched to his night form, which surprised Shoei, and Rikuo was ready for the great battle. The next morning, Rikuo received news that the yokai from the Shikoku region had attacked their borders. Meanwhile, Danuki had disguised himself as a human. It turns out he and Rikuo's grandfather were on their way back, and Danuki told him that 300 years ago, his fox army was defeated by a person, and that person possessed the Mao's hammer sword. At this point, they were in a private room. So, Danuki didn't need to disguise himself anymore. Ryoubo-kun realized that the power of the Mao's hammer was enhanced by blood and hatred. While Tamazuki was leisurely walking around the city, he then encountered Kana, which scared Kana. But he only wanted to ask Kana about Rikuo. Tamazuki believed that he and Rikuo were similar. However, Kana said that Rikuo was not like him, because he was a good person, which surprised Tamazuki. Suddenly, Yura arrived. She ran to protect Kana. At that moment, Tamazuki felt his stroll was enough. So, he decided to leave. Meanwhile, everyone in the Nura clan was worried, because a battle was about to take place. The senior members were waiting for Rikuo, but he had not yet arrived. It turns out Rikuo was in the foyer, and he was soaking his sword in water, which surprised everyone. They didn't know what Rikuo was trying to do, but they all felt excited and curious. On Tamazuki's side, he was also prepared to fight. Surprisingly, he killed his own subordinates, which shocked everyone, because he was trying to enhance the Mao's hammer's power. As Rikuo was preparing to go into battle, Ryoubo stopped him, because he was acting without the Supreme Commander's approval. But Yuki said that Rikuo was only mobilizing his own night parade of 100 demons, so Ryoubo had no right to stop him. However, Ryoubo said that he wouldn't win, because the number of yokai following him was too small. Suddenly, they sensed many yokai approaching, which made everyone worried, because they thought it was the enemy. To their surprise, they were all yokai summoned by Rikuo, which shocked everyone. So, Rikuo's night parade of 100 demons set off, causing everyone to feel excited. Mezu and Gozu said they would complete their mission, after which Mezu and Gozu disguised themselves as daughters, and they were investigating Tamazuki. Unexpectedly, they were discovered by Tamazuki, and Tamazuki decided to show them the power of the Mao's hammer. At this moment, Rikuo's army faced off against Tamazuki's army. Suddenly, Tamazuki transformed into his true form, which surprised everyone. He declared that he would take Rikuo's fear. As they were about to fight, Rikuo suddenly moved forward alone. So, Tamazuki ordered a Nagami to attack, because Tamazuki thought the battle would soon end. And so, the battle began. Everything became chaotic. But Tamazuki couldn't find Rikuo. He thought that Rikuo had died. Suddenly, Rikuo appeared right in front of him, which surprised him, since none of his subordinates attacked Rikuo. Rikuo attacked him instead. At this moment, everyone finally noticed Rikuo. Tamazuki realized, this is the fear of the Nura clan, using demonic aura to overwhelm the enemy, making it so they could not see him. When Inagami attempted to sneak attack Rikuo, Kubanashi stopped him. Meanwhile, Rikuo had pinned Tamazuki to the ground. Suddenly, one of Tamazuki's subordinates appeared behind Rikuo, and she turned the area around Rikuo into darkness, making it so he couldn't see anything. But Rikuo used his flames, and he burned the demons around him. Suddenly, Tamazuki launched a sneak attack on Rikuo, causing him to fall. At this moment, Tamazuki told Rikuo to become his subordinate. But Rikuo still refused. When he was about to kill Rikuo, Yuki blocked the attack to protect him. At this moment, Yuki realized that the young master's eyes couldn't see anything. Suddenly, Yosuzume continued using her ability, causing everyone to be unable to see anything, which pleased Tamazuki. He ordered her to kill Yuki. This made Rikuo worried. When Tamazuki was about to finish off Rikuo, suddenly, he felt fear, and he used the mouse hammer to strike Rikuo. At this moment, Rikuo told Yuki to run, but she insisted on staying and protecting him. So, they decided to fight together. Yosuzume continued her attack. It turned out that Yuki had frozen one of her eyes, so her left eye could still see. Yuki created a snowstorm, and she defeated Yosuzume, restoring everyone's vision, while Rikuo was overwhelming Tamazuki. At this moment, Yura sensed a huge source of demonic aura, so she ran toward it. Zen was healing the injured. Shoei also brought Mezu and Gozu to him for treatment. Meanwhile, others were still fighting their enemies. Kappa led Ganji Kozo to the large water containers. He used water to attack him, and Kappa won. Aotabo was in a contest of strength with a giant yokai. Suddenly, Aotabo's power increased, and he defeated him with a single punch. Meanwhile, Kehoro was overpowering Ona, and Kubanashi tied Inagami up. But they believed that Tamazuki would not fail. At this time, Tamazuki decided to use the mouse hammer. Unexpectedly, he killed his subordinates. Everyone was surprised. Suddenly, his sword transformed. He even killed Ona. At this time, Gozu told Rikuo, his sword absorbed the power of the yokai. By killing them, Tamazuki's subordinates were scared, while Inagami just stood still and looked at Tamazuki. At this time, Yura was also fighting the yokai. Suddenly, she was discovered by Tamazuki. Yura was scared, because his demonic aura was too strong. He even easily destroyed her Shikigami. When he was about to capture Yura, luckily, Rikuo saved her in time, and he cut off Tamazuki's mask. At this time, Rikuo told Yura to go protect the humans, which surprised her, because he was a yokai. While Tamazuki believed, with his sword, his fear would surpass Nura's supreme commander. But he was controlled by Kubanashi. At this time, Rikuo's subordinates arrived, and Nagami saw that Tamazuki was in danger. So, he immediately captured Kana, and they used her to threaten Rikuo. When they thought they had won, Rikuo told Kana to close her eyes, making Kana remember when she was young. She was attacked by a demon. But Rikuo saved her, and he defeated that demon. At this time, Kana believed that Rikuo would save her, making Inagami angry. He believed that Tamazuki would win. Suddenly Tamazuki attacked him, making Inagami not understand why Tamazuki did that. It turned out that he had always considered Inagami as his loyal dog, so the power in his sword increased. But Rikuo underestimated this power, because fear really wasn't that kind of thing. At this moment, Tamazuki released the power in his sword. When Shoei was about to go up, Rikuo stopped him, because he would take care of him. So, they started fighting each other again. While Tamazuki only saw his subordinates as useless people. But Rikuo saw his subordinates as his comrades. Everyone saw both of them emitting a powerful demonic aura, making them surprised. Tamazuki then continued to attack, causing Rikuo to be injured. Suddenly, the sun began to rise. Everyone realized that Rikuo would be at a disadvantage, because he would return to his daytime form, while Yuki still had faith in Rikuo, because whether it was day or night, he was still the commander of the night parade of 100 demons, while Tamazuki was enjoying himself, and he released all of his power. Right now Rikuo was facing his true self. They realized, whether it was day or night, they were still one, while Tamazuki thought he would return to his human form. Unexpectedly, Rikuo did not transform, making Tamazuki worried, because he could no longer hit Rikuo. Suddenly, Rikuo slashed his back, causing all the yokai in his body to come out. He finally won. When Rikuo was about to finish Tamazuki off, suddenly, his grandfather stopped him. And Tamazuki's father also came. Everyone saw Nurarihyun. They were very happy. But Tamazuki still wanted to fight. When he tried to steal his father's power, Rikuo stopped him. He told him to learn to think for others. At this time Danuki was very angry. Because his son was too stupid. So, he apologized to Rikuo. And he would compensate the Nura clan for the damage. The next morning Rikuo woke up. But he was still injured. It turned out that Rikuo's mother had always taken care of him. At this time Rikuo went to see his grandfather. He said that Danuki was very grateful to Rikuo. Because he spared Tamazuki's life. While Tamazuki had returned to Shikoku. And he had started to think for others. At this time everyone was very happy. Because Rikuo had won. So, they all supported Rikuo to become commander. Then, they started dreaming of a celebration party. Rikuo's friends also came by chance. So, he had to continue to hide his identity. Today's video ends here. Remember to like, share and subscribe to the channel. To support Oni-chan in the next videos. Thank you for watching. Love you all.